From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports after show live stream. It's our post-podcast live stream. Make sure, obviously, everyone stays tuned for the podcast that drops tomorrow. But welcome, and we encourage you to be interactive here. Ask questions. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're right. Don't be afraid to get in our faces during the live stream here. Guys, let's jump into it. Let's talk about esports and gaming.
What we do here is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week. And we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze business implications of everything happening in this industry.
The live stream's getting bigger!
I know.
Make sure you go buy William's book, The Book of Esports, which it's killing it on Amazon as always. I think everyone has it by now, but if you don't, go buy it. And even if you do, maybe go buy a second copy, you know.
Nothing says I love my mom and dad like the Book of Esports.
And on the after show, we cover all the stuff that just didn't make it into the podcast. It's still just as good. It's just as interesting. It's maybe even better because we get to interact with you guys.
About the busiest week of work I've ever had, so anytime I
priorities, right?
It's an anti-William is late device.
Very effective.
Don't count on it though.
Hot garbage. It's an indicator of bad money management. It's an indicator of immature management.
I have some hot takes.
For the vast majority of people who came in, look, if you look at just the gaming market, the dollar in revenue, the $137 billion global gaming market, $70 billion of that is mobile. $70 billion. For those guys, this is a revolution.
Thank you for tuning in every week. Thank you for leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it.
If I was that big, I'd be hiring some of the best talent away from Facebook, not from other game developers. I actually think they should have a fire sale, right? Sell the company at rock bottom price because it's going to zero. And I think the natural, interesting acquirer would be Apple. And they would convert them to literally Apple arcades. I want people to funnel in, want everyone in the audience ready to go and all hyped up. That's the idea. Julian says the live stream is the best by far.
And I, for one, welcome the fact that anything that gets you to stop playing Candy Crush is good for us as a whole.
The live stream.
William and I went on a bit of a tangent.
World of Warcraft rock, yeah.
A little bit of a tangent. This is the first interesting thing I've seen from a competitive level to what Twitch is doing. I mean, let's start with a big story. It's impossible to ignore big numbers.
is the Business of Esports podcast.
The fastest growing entertainment phenomenon of this generation.
I, Prophet of Esports, joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis.
Yeah, we got the Book of Esports out. It's a big deal.
So everyone knows me as the Prophet, William as the Professor. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports after show live stream. I am Paul Dawalibi, by my friend and co-host William, Lindsay Poss, Cohen. For those of you who are new, welcome to the official after show of esports. What we do here is we cover all the stuff that didn't make it into the podcast, all the great topics, all the great news, all the great business commentary, everything that didn't make it into the podcast because there's just too much to fit into it. And we make it interactive here. We do it with you guys who are tuned in. We still take a look at it from a business and C-suite lens. We still dissect, we still analyze all the business implications of everything happening. How are you guys doing this week? Welcome, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, early Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, almost. Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I can't believe this is like the night. This is Thanksgiving Eve, and here we are. We all gathered. This is a great moment for us as always. And I actually have to give a huge shout out to Lindsay. We heard your feedback about the squares, and we have now given you the square of honor. I've been demoted to third square. I don't know.
I'm very okay with it.
But we put you in the good square today, I guess. So I hope you're happy.
It's for showing up on time. That's what I'm going to tell myself.
Yeah.
I think that's it, William. She just made it here before you. And so it's one of those things where you got demoted. I'm sorry, my friend. You get to.
Hey, we started at 8:30 tonight, and I was in the green room at 8:34. I would call that showtime.
Well, this is why we have the intro now. I told you it's the William anti-late device. So hopefully everyone enjoyed it, though. Enjoyed the intro.
I get so hyped. And by the way, we're aware we had a little audio issue at the beginning there. We think it's headphones on Jeff, so Jeff is left to go get headphones so we don't have some echo at the beginning there. But so excited, some great topics today. And yeah, just really
Bodrich, welcome. Comments. William made it on time for once, which is nice. It's a big step, William. It's a big step. Guys, look, we've got so much to talk about this week. Before we dive into it, I will just say, give you a little teaser of what we covered on the podcast this week. Obviously, it drops tomorrow on Thanksgiving, but I will just give you a small teaser of the topics we covered. First of all, we talked about PUBG Mobile announcing a $14 million esports program. So if you're interested in that, William and I spend a lot of time talking about that and sort of the viability of mobile esports in general. We talk about the Roblox IPO and their S1 filing, and we dive into that and some of the surprises there and some of the interesting things there, and what Roblox is doing in China. So we talked about both of those things related to Roblox. And then finally, we talked about how, and Jeff, you'll appreciate this, Chinese streaming company Bilibili released their quarterly results with a rap video, which... If you're an analyst or anyone who spends any time listening to quarterly results, this must have been a breath of fresh air. And I think the joke was, at least for those who maybe don't know this, but William is a tremendously talented rapper. It's his hobby. He's in, he's making rhymes or whatever rappers do
climbing
all the time.
Ranks. Yeah.
but that's the episode to look forward to tomorrow, and I highly recommend it. We had a lot of fun with it.
We did. We had a good one. This was a good one this week. It's good for a Thanksgiving episode. I think it's a nice mix of lighthearted and serious, and definitely great to listen to if you're driving somewhere to see family. If you're staying at home because you can't make the usual trip this year, it might be nice to pop the turkey in the oven while you listen to. So, but no matter what, enjoy the podcast.
Don't put Christmas music on. Put the podcast on. That's the message here. But tonight for the after show, there's just a ridiculous amount of topics that we didn't get to cover on the podcast. A lot of fun ones, a lot of sort of less serious ones, but a couple of serious stories. And I don't know about you guys, but let's start with some of the serious stuff. Okay. This is what I think we should, let's dive into something meaty first. And then we can get to some fun topics. I will say, guys, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're a regular, thank you again for coming every week. And make sure to tell your friends about the after show, because the more people we have in here, the more fun it is. Let's talk about NVIDIA, guys. NVIDIA in the news. This is a huge story from VentureBeat, and the headline is NVIDIA's Q3 revenues rise 57% to $4.73 billion as gaming and data centers stay strong. Huge numbers. And a huge sort of just increase in revenue given the size of NVIDIA's business, right? This is not like a small startup that has grown 57%. The article, goes on and talks about earnings per share and things like that. But basically the thrust of it is gaming and their new GPUs, their new graphics cards drove much of this growth. That basically they can't keep anything in stock. They continue to be out of stock. Is this surprising for anyone? Like this NVIDIA story, it's quite like they're bigger than Intel right now from a market cap standpoint.
I was staggered by, like, normally when you see 57% growth, it's off like a $3 million base, or like this is like $1 billion base, and it's what stunned me about this story is not that their business had improved, because obviously there are a lot of factors that would lead you to think they would have another strong quarter. It's that it had capacity to improve this much. Right, like I would have told you that $1 billion, the business, it would like there wasn't this much headroom to add to this. But I think it does show. Look, one is, it's interesting that data centers are a piece of this results. Right, we can't say this is entirely gaming driven. Right, so we do need to call that out. But fundamentally, I think it's next generation cards and consumer adoptiveness in this environment. Like, it's unbelievable how much of a buoyancy that's proven to be on the corporate results. Like, unbelievable to me.
Lindsay, are you surprised at all? I mean, I don't know how much you follow the hardware market, or has anyone been trying to buy an NVIDIA graphics card over the last 2 months? But in some ways, the user experience has been very telling, and probably could have predicted the stock price increase.
Yeah, so NVIDIA has actually been in the news as a chip maker for a completely different reason in the policy world, and a not so good one. So I'm just going to glaze right over that. Okay. So I have seen them in the news for not good reasons.
That was a softball. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, as someone who has been looking at graphics cards and seeing that they're completely sold out of everything, and just the fact that the home PC market, I think, has grown since coronavirus, it's not surprising at all. NVIDIA is the top dog. And they also just acquired, what's the one that starts with an A? Didn't they acquire the other chip maker, the smaller one?
I think they were talking about buying ARM. I don't know if the deal is done. ARM makes is like a CPU or chip architecture, which is interesting, because there may be, if NVIDIA gets into sort of the CPU market, or at least like a total system on a chip kind of solution where you have CPU and GPU on the same silicon, that could be interesting. And especially also because Apple is now producing laptops with their own ARM-based chip. So
yeah, I just saw that, which I thought was really interesting.
Look, it seems they can do no wrong, and if you look at the stock price, it seems like they can do no wrong. Where does NVIDIA end up, William, in your mind, 2 or 3 or 5 years from now? How do you continue this kind of growth?
Well, it's a challenge because this is, it's not partly this is just a cycle in the chip business, and you do well. Like when it's almost like there's console cycles and console sales spike in those years. There's chip cycles. So I do think it's not like they're going to sustain this result quarter to quarter, right? Like it's not like this. There is going to be a tail off. It's natural. I think NVIDIA is even messaging that right now. Like, hey guys, like don't expect results to sustain. But I do think that for NVIDIA, the path forward is through something like the ARM acquisition, right? Like the way for them to sustain this level of growth and success is basically to position themselves as the computing company. That's it. They have to be a solution where they start looking at more integrated software solutions, more expand their category of products, right? And they have to really be entering across the hardware market. And my prediction for sort of NVIDIA on the back of these results is they have the resources and the success. I expect you see them moving into other types of chips in development. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see NVIDIA moving into actual or some types of actual hardware production, like beyond the chips themselves.
But they do already.
Yeah, they do. They do, but expanding that, expanding their hardware lines more.
Like on the AI data center side, they produce a lot of sort of complete solutions.
I think for these guys, the way to say that it has to be it's like the IBM model. It has to be the total ecosystem for them, because I do think as great as you can get, and chip revenues can give this to you in a quarter, I don't know how you sustain that but maybe I'm right. I mean, I don't know. You guys tell me. I'm curious. Paul,
there's just so much growth here potential. Yeah. That's what's astonishing to me. Gaming, massive growth industry. AI, massive growth industry. Like you're talking about autonomous driving, like where their chips power all of it, massive growth potential. Like they're literally in every massive growth market you can possibly imagine. And like even they even touch healthcare, right? Like because a lot of it is imaging and stuff like that. Like there's literally nothing they don't touch that is not a massive growth market. And so I don't see how NVIDIA becomes anything but some massive graphics card monopoly. I mean, Martin makes the point, amazing news. I can see why AMD is making an effort again. The bar has been raised. But realistically, AMD, and their new cards, their graphics cards are good, but they don't have the level of sophistication or the sort of the penetration NVIDIA has in the gaming market and in all the other, definitely not in all the other markets, right? And so they're an also ran still at the moment. Yeah. I see NVIDIA sort of being, driving ahead of the pack in the clear for at least the next 5 years. And I don't know really who catches up. Intel has the resources, has the muscle, potentially, if they sort of really wanted to. I don't see it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if 5 years from now we're having this conversation and NVIDIA is one of the biggest companies in the world, frankly, from a market cap perspective, like up there with an Amazon and a Microsoft.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about the competition that's out there, but I do know that NVIDIA definitely does not need to diversify its product offerings to continue on the trajectory that it's on.
Yeah, I don't know. The truth is I struggle a little with the hardware space, but Paul, I mean, I find your comments pretty persuasive, right? Like, I mean, you're right. They're basically, if you think of the new economy as one that is computationally driven, and these guys are the greatest provider of computer computation, sort of doesn't matter as long as they keep doing what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like
you sort of can't mess it up.
Success, right. Like it's basically like, yep, strategy seems good,
They're already the gold standard. I mean,
no, but there's an interesting business lesson.
Product for all rapidly growing industries, sure. Like
I do think there's an interesting business lesson here, though, which is you don't always have to be genius from a product perspective. You don't have to be genius from a marketing perspective. Sometimes it's good enough that you happen to catch the wave of one hot industry. In this case, NVIDIA, like 10 hot industries, right? Yeah. Like just being and riding that wave is going to propel them regardless of sort of what they do. If 2 years from now, the graphics cards don't live up to gamers' expectations, they're just 10% or 15%. Well, what else are you going to buy, right?
Well,
like
It's what people say: timing, positioning, product in that order, right? Better to be at the right time, better to have the right positioning, better than and by the way, in this case, they have really good products, right?
Yeah,
like part of how they got this position is because like I'm old enough to remember AMD and Voodoo, with like Voodoo was like a credible competitor. You know, I'd be like, oh, that Voodoo, and people would always be like, oh, that next Voodoo card's really catching up. It's gonna, this might be the year I go Voodoo, you know, to go play Sin or, you know, John Romero's Daikatana. That's really going to be better on an. But now, like, you know, but they're, you know, they've won partly. They partly staked out this dominance position because they did have a best in class product. But more than that, I think it is they're in the right space at the right time. And you know that's 90% of some battles. And this
one miss. My one complaint, if you'll allow me, my weekly soapbox.
Yep.
SLI. Getting rid of SLI it hurts me to my core, right? Because there's nothing that looks more beefy, more like overpowered than not one big graphics card, but two big graphics cards in your system, right? And why not sell me two? I'm willing to buy two. Why not sell me two? And they've essentially killed SLI. You know, all the software support, all the driver support's gone basically. And only the 3090 cards can even have the connector for it. I would gladly buy two of them, but for some reason, NVIDIA doesn't want that. And I can't figure that out. Or maybe you guys can, but I can't.
It is a bit weird that unless it's one of two things, right? One is it's like they would rather drive faster adoption across chip cycles than they would, you know, depth of purchase within a chip cycle, right? Like, in other words, if you're like, they're maybe facing a choice because the people who are taking advantage of SLI are the leading edge, like the hardest of the hardcore, right? You know what I mean? It's not like, even I, as like an avid gamer, like, I'm not banging down the doors for SLI setups, right? So maybe it's better for them to drive those consumers rather than buy deep into a product line and get locked in for a little bit, to constantly have them be purchasing the new chip. It could be sort of a life cycle management perspective. The other piece of it, I wonder how, and this is a little bit interesting, and this is where I'm really outside of my comfort zone. So you tell me, Paul, this even makes sense. But how much of this is projecting some of their data center plays? In that maybe they don't, and hear me out because this could be really dumb, but I'm kind of curious. Maybe they don't want scalability on the card side to be so direct and so easy, right? Like from a strategic standpoint. I don't know if that.
Yeah, like you nerf the consumer product so it doesn't compete with sort of your workstation or like more hardcore sort of business product. Yeah.
Essentially, like they've divided a use case. They've said, look, heavy data sentence play, it's all about linked systems. That's one path. Consumer, it's all about latest cutting edge model. That's another path. And at the end of the day, you're just selling computing power. So it takes a Herculean effort to separate and brand the products, you know? Like, I don't know. I mean, it is weird because in today's day and age, you would think that SLI would be the innovation for gamers, right? Like everyone is all about pimping their gaming setup and $700 gaming chairs that did not, you know, like why not two graphics cards feels like the most natural thing to me. I mean,
look, having one in my system feels naked. Feels naked. I don't like it.
Two monitors, two keyboards, two mice. Actually, that should be our strategy, Paul. We should real gamers use two mice to play their FPS.
Two mice. So, like, well, you do. You've got your streaming PC and your gaming PC, right?
Well, there you go. See, maybe that's what NVIDIA did. Anyway,
Chris says Jeff needs a Helix branded headset stat.
I need something. I think I'm back in now. We had some audio troubles, but hopefully it works and you're not hearing that echo anymore. My AirPods didn't work. I had to get my wife to scramble down the.
Oh, there you go.
Did you do that on purpose? Did you like hit the reset on the router to?
No.
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you, Jeff. We lost you.
Cam says the whole gang is here this week, sort of.
Yeah, Jeff is
sort of. Okay. And Greg says I can't get my hands on one. Greg, it was tough. It was tough. You need a good bot is the only way to basically get these cards. Let's move on, guys. Let's talk about another big, really, really big number. It's kind of the theme for the beginning of this live stream. Really big numbers here. And this is from NME.com. And the story is NRG reveals the NRG Castle, a $10 million gaming hub. I like that they actually like put it all spelled out with all the zeros. I think it has more impact as a headline, right? Rather than just put 10M. 10M feels like you can put that in your pocket with all the zeros.
It really underscores how much money went into building this out. Like they had to.
But here's the crux of it, guys, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. And the completely non-business question I have for all of you, but also probably the most relevant business question I have for all of you. It's the subheadline here. It comes with a replica of the Oval Office with energy drink fountains. So like it's a whole bunch of sets where people can create content. That's the crux of this castle thing. Influencers go in and create content, but they have a replica of the White House's Oval Office. Why? Can anyone explain this to me?
Have these people never heard of a green screen? Like, why? I don't understand why you need to create a whole house. This is 2020. Like, why would you create a whole house full of rooms? Like, this isn't Madame Tussauds. Like, this is just makes no sense. I don't get it.
That would be so horrific if the people come in on the first day and somebody's like, yeah, but there's also, we could have done this with a backdrop or the Mandalorian just uses a 360-degree screen now and you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
You
like turns out we could have done this with CGI and it would have cost like $100,000. But hey, 10 million, everyone's got that to burn. Why not?
I mean, you can't spend 10 million on a green screen, Jeff. This is the problem.
It's true. Yeah. You don't build scale if you just buy 10 green screens. This is a moat. This is an asset. I love it. I think because
that Oval Office set will never get old. You'll create content there for years and years.
Sure. It definitely feels like this was designed when the election season was extremely topical. You know what I mean? It was like everyone. It would be like But actually, all seriousness, joking aside, I actually really like this. I actually it's well proven that studios have lots and sets for a reason, right? Like you need to set up multiple revolving structures. There is value to having physical presence for these things because you can green screen, but it doesn't have objects, depth, structure, right? It does sound a little overbuilt to me. Like I don't understand why you can't have a big prop database and some sound stages and do it more of a traditional way. I don't know why you need all this purpose-built stuff, but I also suspect they're marketing it as purpose-built and it's not really as purpose-built if you're actually there. But if you're going to spend $10 million on something, I would so much rather you spent $10 million on this, which is actually a content creation facility where you can point to existing things in entertainment media that need large-scale content production for filming. Like, I'd rather that than the team headquarters that you see.
But it's not the team headquarters, right? To be fair, let me just read this.
It's not the team headquarters. That's the point.
They say, I want to be clear that this wasn't a space designed for one specific team, Rain said. It's really not even just designed for NRG. We really wanted this place to be a highly collaborative environment where all sorts of athletes, musicians, creators, celebrities, whatever you are, to come into this space and make incredible gaming content. He described the castle as being exclusively made for over-the-top enviro gaming content. I've never heard that term, enviro gaming. And look, my obviously, as the business of esports, I believe content has massive value, right? No question there. Tremendous, huge value. There's virtually unlimited demand, massive value there. The question is, do you need to spend $10 million for specific sets that inevitably get old, right?
But like I said, if I told you, right, let me play counter, because this one doesn't bug me as much as some of the other Team HQ stuffs and things we've talked about, right? If I told you that, okay, the latest blockbuster, Warner Brothers film is going to be filmed at home on your PC with a Logitech, 1080 IPI camera and a Blue Yeti mic. You'd be like, really? I kind of thought that, for the scale of audience and everything, they would have sprung for something a bit bigger. Isn't esports and gaming content at a time where it makes sense for us to be investing in like esports first production content facilities. Like there are good examples of this, like Skillshot in Atlanta. My understanding is that is done really, really well. And that's purpose-built Skillshot, that's purpose-built esports like set and production design, right? It's fundamentally like, it's almost this model. This is more creator driven. That's more tournament league driven, but it's the same idea. Like, why is it so weird? Like, you're not surprised that commercials are filmed on sets or audiobooks are recorded in sound studios. Like,
but having had experience in that bigger, like really big media world, like huge brands spending dollars on like creating ads, I can tell you they play very fast and loose with their money, right? And the agencies make out like bandits overcharging brands for things that just don't make sense from a dollars and cents standpoint. There's no reason esports should fall into this same trap just because, right? Like, could you produce super high quality content for $2 million and not have the White House Oval Office set? Probably, right? Well, and so it's more a question of like cost effectiveness. In some ways, the NRG guys are making the Venn guys look like geniuses in my mind.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about.
My opinion, my thought is that the strategy is not the problem. You guys are both saying the same thing, right? Having a place where people come create good content, having, good infrastructure there that helps create the content, that's a good strategy. It's the branding of it. Like, why is there this article that it costs $10 million to build it? Why is it called The Castle? Like, it's their office. It's an office, right? It's a studio. Why not just call it that? Make it, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to brand themselves. But to me, I think Chris in the chat here makes a good point. I mean, it makes the ecosystem look juvenile. Like, why can't it just be, hey, we're a serious industry and this is an office where streamers come to create great content? Why is it The Castle, and why does it have to say that it costs, how much did Salesforce's office cost? I have no idea. Probably a lot more than $10 million. But guess what? It's just an office where people go to work and it serves the purpose. Like, that's exactly what this should be.
Salesforce isn't like screaming like,
hey, look, we built this $5 billion building and called it like the Treehouse. Like, they don't do that because they're, a real serious business.
Fox Studios doesn't call their sets the Treehouse, right? Like it's Fox Studios or NBC Studios or like, right? Like, there's a good point there.
I thought you were going to go to a different place here, Jeff, that I actually kind of agree with, which is I think we're all saying the strategy of purpose-built content facilities for the new creator economy, or sorry, the enviro gaming economy.
Enviro gaming.
I've got to use that word now.
The terminology, get it right.
It's actually not as silly as it sounds, but I think it's still silly. But so for this enviro gaming economy, right, like that's a good one, right? I guess where I thought you were going to say is this is a very old school way of envisioning what a content production facility could look like. Like, this sounds to me like the set lots you had in 1970s out in, LA, right? And like, it is sort of true, like where I was going with The Mandalorian is maybe there is a way to do this esports content production that it does need a purpose-built or dedicated facility, but shouldn't or doesn't need to look like this old school. Like, in my mind, something like, again, I go back, if you guys don't know what The Mandalorian's doing, they basically film everything on effectively a 360-degree ultra-high resolution monitor, right? It's not.
It's done in Unity, right? Isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. They do it all in like an in-engine render. Or it's, well, that's not an in-engine render, it's backdrops, but it's basically, it's a fancy green screen. It's sort of like the Mugar Omni Theater of green screens, but that works really well for The Mandalorian. Like, people are watching it, and now that facility is being licensed out and people are looking at it for other products. Like, something like that might actually justify a large CapEx spend and might feel more appropriate to gaming given the integration and digital nature of the offering. And again, still requires a production facility that people want to rent time on and all of those things, but doesn't necessarily feel so antiquated or anchored to last gen. And that's the weird thing to me about this. It just feels like this is something we could have done for a TV show. And I think for purpose-built for gaming, it should be purpose-built for gaming. Otherwise, you can just use the millions of TV show sets and film production sets and commercial agency sets that exist and can do sound staging and lighting and props and all the stuff that you have here,
Cam says, in the White House? Yeah. I still, no one still has answered why that set.
That's a huge disconnect. I don't know. That screams like little kid gets to plan a studio to me. Like,
that's it.
It's in the office,
Everyone gets to choose one room. You get to choose one room.
Sterling says, I think there's definitely a way for a team to do a facility successfully. TSM is the closest so far, I think. Most teams have seemed to struggle on how to monetize the facilities overall. I would say all teams have struggled, and TSM hasn't even opened theirs yet, Sterling. I don't think it's even officially open yet. I know the president there had tweeted that it's opening soon, I believe. Sterling says, glad I finally got to catch one of these live, by the way. Great to have you here, Sterling. Welcome.
Thanks, Sterling. Yeah.
Look, I'll just leave it on. I think we all agree content's king, right? The strategy makes sense, but this feels to me like too much money in the hands of really inexperienced business people, like who don't realize they could accomplish the same goal much more cost effectively and much more profitably. It's people who just fundamentally don't know how to build businesses in my mind.
That's not true. Like NRG is run by arguably some of the most experienced business people. Like it's run by Andy Miller from Quattro Wireless.
How much do you think he's doing day to day, William?
Okay, so your argument is basically within this facility, it's delegated.
Most of these teams, right? It's run by gamers, guys who have never built companies before. They're handed millions and millions of dollars. They go build the castle with a White House set. I mean, that's just the reality.
You know what, Paul? This is going to be a great transition. Too much keyboard, not enough boardroom.
Too much keyboard, not enough boardroom.
Does that
exactly
work?
Right. Exactly
all keyboard,
right.
No boardroom.
All keyboard.
Can we use that one?
That should be a tagline for Business of Esports.
So, again, I just want to reinforce that I'm not against this. It's just, could we have done this with 2 million and produced really great content and create a platform to allow creators to come in? No question. $2 million, I think, goes a long way. But anyways,
or just don't publicize an article about how much you spent. Right? Spend whatever you need to spend to build the facility that works to create your content, but don't write puff pieces about how much it costs, because it just shows your immaturity and lack of business sense. I think
we got to cycle always, but it's the cost is a proxy for quality. That's what they're doing there. They're saying this is going to be a great facility because it costs 10 million. The better way to do that is talk about the features that make your facility stand out. Like, why do I have to go there versus it? But again, I mean, it's easy to be critical of other. I applaud these guys for taking the effort and doing this and getting out, because I do think esports does need more dedicated content creation solutions. And it's easy to take pot shots from afar. My overall takeaway is good for these guys trying something. Let's see what happens with it. Certainly they seem excited enough to put 10 million into it. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, not their own money. That's always the case. Let's move on, guys. And actually, William, you provided the best segue ever. Talking about
what articles we're going to talk about.
Talking about from the keyboard to the boardroom. This is we'll call this. I'm just going to turn them all into segments that we see once and never see again. This week it's Should We Sue?
I hope this one comes up again. I'm just going to say yes. I don't even know what we're talking about yet.
We did that one about the girl who thought she looked like the other girl.
Yeah,
So this is a recurring, theme.
This is a recurring.
That's right. We did have that last week.
Well, we had Paul Gets Soapy, right? We have William's Heart to Heart,
which I do.
We have Bad Ideas in Gaming, and so this week we'll have Should We Sue?
You forgot about Guess Who's Leaving Activision.
Oh yeah, that's right. This week in Blizzard Departures.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is.
You're gonna get a cease and desist if you don't stop.
So should we sue? This was an article from esportsbets.com. I bring it up only for the headline. It says the business of esports from the basement to the classroom. So it's somehow they appropriated our name, and which by the way is trademarked. So there's the business of esports is trademarked, and have sort of I don't know, ruined our tagline. They've it's been inspired by ours. I'll say that. So
Paul, you just like to call out when we have, imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
That's why I call it out, William, because I am flattered, and I think we should be flattered.
What are they pitching here? What are they selling?
Oh, I don't know, but I didn't even read the article. I just saw the headline, and I'm like, what?
Interesting.
But they're talking about, I think, how kids have gone from playing in their basements to studying esports and being pros, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's about curricular. It's the rise of esports adoption in schools, I think.
Anyways, that's this week's Should We Sue? Hopefully it's not a regular. Hopefully it's
Who
not
is
a
this
regular
esports
thing.
bets? Are they an esports betting company? I
Oh,
don't think I've not heard of them.
I think they look more like a news site.
But they definitely have something to do with betting. I mean, it's clearly affiliate marketing, right?
It's clearly affiliate marketing. Yeah.
We got to get GMBL up there. I mean, you got Unicorn 365. We're missing an opportunity to market.
I think it might be affiliated with Unicorn. Actually, I'm not sure. It looks like affiliate marketing for them at a glance. But anyway,
let's move on, guys. Let's move on.
Topic. Fun topic.
A little silly topic, but let's move on to something more serious. This is from Wired. And I know William wanted to talk about this. PS5 and Xbox games are getting shorter, and it's a good move. The subheadline here is, with many PS5 and Xbox Series X launch titles clocking in at under 30 hours, could the 4K console generation herald a better, healthier experience for players and developers alike? Look, I read this one way, which is, and it's just one way of reading it, right? Developers are getting lazy. The games are getting shorter. We're running out of good ideas. So here you go. Here's 30 hours instead of 60, but we're going to charge you the same price anyways. Now, this is the most cynical end of sort of the spectrum. Do you guys see it a different way here? Does anyone here see this as a positive trend?
This is the Quibiification of video games.
I was waiting for this. Quibiification. I like that.
I'll play the devil's advocate to you. I genuinely don't think it's, developers getting, lazy or whatever you just mentioned. I think it's a healthy thing for the industry, right? There's only so many games that can be these live service games and games as a service that you play forever. People only have so much attention. So not every game can kind of live forever and be a game that you live in, sort of one of these, the buzzword, the metaverse. Like, not every game can be that prototypical metaverse, the Fortnite, the place you hang out in. You do need these shorter experiences where it's, hey, that was an interesting game. I played it. I enjoyed it. And now it's over. It's done. I think that's a healthy thing for the industry. And particularly as we move to the next generation, where things like Game Pass become more prevalent, subscriptions, what you need in subscriptions is these short, bursts, right? Because no one's going to join a subscription where they only play one game. You wouldn't do that. You would just buy the game. That's the way the business model for these things, how it works. So you could think about the analogy with TV, right? Like, you don't need everything to be 40 seasons long. It's not bad to have a documentary that's 2 hours. You watch it and it's over. So I do think it's, it's not a bad thing for the industry. If anything, it's a healthy thing for the industry, and it helps the business model for these developers. It's good for gamers and their attention spans. So I think we should applaud it rather than have, developers try to build every game to be, the Cyberpunk and have it take 10 years and $1 billion and have it be 300 hours long or whatever it is. So I think it's not a bad thing. I don't know.
No one's going to be happy when they finish Cyberpunk in 30 hours.
I was going to try to make a joke about it with like modal average. Cyberpunk by itself raises true average to record breaking.
Anyway. Guys, let me make my question more specific, right? And it's truly a response to Jeff here, which is, isn't mobile? We have mobile for the bite-sized stuff, right? Why do we think a trend to shorter is good for console or PC?
Because it's a maturation of the industry, Paul. Like, I think, and actually, well, I will say, I think partly this is driven by development realities today, which is, look, like, the price of games has been locked at $60 for forever. So certainly there is some, dev resource compression of just like every year you can fit a little less in. It comes from the cost side, not the revenue side. I do think that's part of it. But the big thing I would say is, you don't look at movies. You're not saying like, which movie am I going to go see? And you're like, oh, this one's only 2 hours and 15 minutes. It can't be any good. Like, there are very few experiential media we judge by the duration of the experience. It is a relic of games because for so long they were so short. For so long, the loop time on an arcade game was 2 minutes, 5 minutes, that actually, like, people wanted longer experiences, the selling point became part of it, to the point where I remember a time when the number of discs your game had was an indicator of quality. So people were actively splitting their games across more discs than required just so they could say it's a 4-disc game, right? Like, but I think we're past that as a space. We as gamers now recognize we're playing these things for so much more than time to complete campaign, whether it's the afterlife multiplayer, whether it's the quality of the experience we're engaging in, the novelty of the experience. Like, and I think just like nobody goes shopping for a book and says, oh, only 190 pages, it's trash, right? Like, we recognize that it's the experiential nature of the product and the quality of that experience that drives it. And it's good for us, because I do think, candidly, and I'll be honest, I think games have gotten too long. I really do, because we were achieving the length in games last gen with padded content to artificially extend runtimes. Look at the most common criticisms of any AAA titles, and it's repetitive side quests, right? Reused arbitrary open world content, right? Unnecessary level grinding before endgame, right? Like, all of these things. And we don't need that. The games are good enough by themselves, and consumers are willing to pay for them. And if anything, it sours your experience for the next one. So I think it's a great thing games are getting shorter. I love it, particularly as a parent with no time to play games.
I was going to William, that was going to be my comment. Has your appreciation for long games, like or your appreciation for short games, is it directly correlated to the number of kids in your household? There may be some connection there.
Look, to some extent, like, I'll be honest with you, I loved that Ghost Runner was a game I could finish in 10 hours, right? That was a great length for me. I got the whole experience. I saw everything that I wanted. I could go back and speedrun it if I wanted to do more, right? Like, so yes, definitely. But it also reflects the reality. This is where I get to say I'm not an anomaly. It's not just William being selfish because I have kids and I can't spend all night gaming anymore. It's a vast majority of gamers now have kids. There is a huge 30+ gaming demographic that has my problem. It's good that experiences are adjusting for this, right?
Well, it's not even just that. I mean, certainly short games can be rushed. They can be money sucks or whatever. But it's also not. It can be very difficult to make something shorter. There's that famous Mark Twain quote: "I always wanted to write a short novel, but I never had the time." I mean, you're packing an entire experience into a shorter amount of time. We also see this trend in content where instead of watching movies, people are watching things like 5-part shorter documentaries where each episode is 45 minutes. I would have loved to seen a game like The Witcher broken up over 1 or 2 or 3 games with really dedicated and intelligent side quests, so that if people wanted to continue, they very much could have continued, but they didn't have to put 60 or 80 hours in to go ahead and finish it. So short doesn't necessarily cheapen the product depending on how it's done. It can, but it can also be an opportunity to see things like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-part games that are really in depth and have really dedicated storylines where people can kind of pick and choose their own adventure and how deep they want to go into it.
I'm totally with you and Lindsay. If games want to be that long serialized of experience, it's time to bring back subscription products or serialized gaming products. Right? Like, remember when Life is Strange and games like that would launch via episode, or Telltale Games would put out another? Like, I think that was a business model that was ahead of its time. I really do. And I think particularly today with the rise of subscription services for everything else, more episodic gaming, I believe that's the technical term that we should be using for this. More episodic gaming is a really good thing. It's a better way of consuming.
It's a trend in the movie industry as well. I mean, it's happening in other entertainment outlets.
It totally is, and it lets you deliver epic experiences across an appropriately priced experience. Like, the Avengers recognized, or a more Machiavellian example, Harry Potter or Twilight or any of these big books recognize, like, hey, like, we can increase monetization from our fan base by increasing the number of films we make. Like, it doesn't have to be 1 book per movie. The same can apply to gaming. 1 epic story doesn't have to be 1 retail copy per story, right? You can. By the way, this is not
just to be clear,
exploitive monetization models and everything. This is like, I think you can split it out and it's fine.
Just to be clear, you guys are all agreeing with me then, right? You all want longer experiences. You just want little breaks in between, right? But the end result is you still want the 60 hours or the 90 hours of gaming, not 30 and then you're done and you don't get any more.
No, I want an experience that maintains its quality standard. That's what I want. I don't want a game that's 60 hours by going like this.
We have no Lord of the Rings fans in this room, I guess.
Well, there was a lot of talk. If anything, I've
standards.
seen a lot of talk, in sort of the gaming press about the opposite, where people, there's a lot of frustration with these, Assassin's Creed last year. It was like 90% of the time you're just walking around like it was a good game, but people just got, tired. They wanted to finish it rather than have to do all these side quests and all that stuff. So, I do think there's a segment of the consumer that wants and be finished. And if a game can tell the story that it needs to tell and be good in 30 hours, why does it need to be 60 hours? Like if it has to be 60 hours for it to tell a good story and be good, then it should be 60 hours, right? I just think that's what consumers want.
Arms to that.
I want to read some comments here. While I'm reading comments, I want you guys to think about where WoW fits into this argument, right? Where you can easily spend 2,000 hours doing literally some of the most repetitive content on the planet, and people are super happy to do it, right? So Martin says, I think many of these games were just short because they were rushed out as launch titles, not telling of a new trend at all. Martin, I actually think that's a good point, and we didn't really discuss it because I do think many are rushed out, sort of half finished, and that is probably, in my mind, the bigger trend than just in games getting shorter in general. But it also speaks to the quality argument, right? That doesn't matter how short or long it is. If the quality is not there, who cares? Cam says console gamers equals casual. Keep the live service games like WoW on PC. Yeah, I mean, well, now, I don't know how long that kind of thing, that argument lasts, but it's that I think that's becoming less and less the case. Chris says quality versus quantity proves more profitable. Exhibit C Avengers. Although the Avengers put out a lot of movies, I would say
about the Avengers game.
I think he's talking about the game, assuming.
Yeah,
I see.
The game.
I mean, the Avengers movies are great, so I mean, I don't know.
And there's a lot of them.
Most of them are.
There's like
Telltale's Walking Dead was ahead of its time. Yeah, I think we all agree. Is one of the fears FOMO? Like you'll miss out on what? Sorry, Lindsay?
Quite possibly. That's part of the reason why people want to finish a game so that they can know the ending and not miss
I get
out.
it. So like shorter is better because you're not worried about missing the ending. Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Cam says, love that take, Martin. And Chris says the Avengers video game. I actually haven't played. I did play it, but I didn't. I spent like 5 minutes playing it and I didn't really love it. I don't know. I felt like the reviews were not very good too. So it's like kind of a crappy third person.
I'm just laughing because you're asking about World of Warcraft, and I'm like imagining if like what happened in a Call of Duty campaign if it's like, okay, we've located the source of like, the next World War IV. But to go into the secret base, you have to grind Ardenvale rep for 47 hours.
Yeah, you need to kill this one monster 63,000 times.
Spawn with a 2% chance of dropping an Ardenvale trinket. You need to return 500 trinket stacks 5 times to achieve this.
No, like why is WoW the exception? It seems to like just about every rule in that sense, right?
No, because this is like you can't understand. WoW's totally different. WoW is a social currency game, and the reason why people like that things are hard to do in WoW is so they have an abstract worth, right? So like basically WoW, the consensus is we don't like pay to win games, so WoW can't make their items rare by pricing, so they have to make their items rare via effort. And so why it works in that particular economy is if it's really easy to go get your, what is it, like Fellhide Spaulders, right? I don't even know what drops anymore. I'm just saying Dungeons and Dragons words. So that's definitely an item in the game, right? Fellhide Spaulders.
No, it is. It is.
There you go. See, I could be a designer, but like it has to have scarcity, and so they do time scarcity because they can't do price scarcity. It's plain and simple.
I would argue that this trend is happening literally because games like WoW exist. Because games like WoW, Destiny, Fortnite, Call of Duty, they take up so much of your time that you literally, in order to play those, you don't have time to play anything else. So if you're one of the 10,000 other games that launch each year, you can't beat 50 hours because nobody's going to play you otherwise. You just can't. There's not enough time in the day. I think it's just as simple as that. It's a math equation. not to mention just from a development perspective, like the costs and, from a human perspective as well, we worry about crunch in the industry. Like there is an element of that, ROI, cost, time to develop, all of these things are important. But I genuinely think as games have become games as a service, and some of these games accrue so much of people's time, every other game needs to shorten what they're doing in order to kind of fit into people's media day. You only have, I don't know, how much do you guys play games a day? Like, it can't be more than 5 hours, 4 hours. Paul doesn't sleep, so maybe it's 10. But the normal person sleeps 8 hours a day and works 12. Like, you don't have that much more time. So if you're playing WoW 3 hours a day, like, when are you playing 5 60-hour games a year? Just mathematically, doesn't work.
No, I think it's an interesting take, Lindsay. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and again, to that point, like, it's not easy to make a short game that is as compelling and as deep into a world as it might seem. I mean, there's a reason why some of those games are 60 hours. So taking that experience and compacting it down into 30 hours for those moments when people might have free time is not a task that's going to be, simple for developers. But I think if you can find that right way to do it, then it's massively profitable because you are taking advantage of those kind of spare moments that people have.
Guys, let's move on. I will read the comments, but we're going to move on. Cam says William could say anything, and I'd believe it was an item. Yes, he has a natural dungeon master voice, I would say.
I was literally writing down, why I was laughing to myself is I was literally writing down combinations of words and being like, is that an item? And then checking on my phone and it was an item. I was like, Arcanite Reaper. There's no way that's an item.
Arcanite Reaper right? is an item.
It's like a main tier item in WoW.
Yeah, very, very, very good item.
Bowbound Claymore, not an item, but should be. Blizzard
you can mash together fantasy words, and WoW has been around so long, chances are it's an item. Like Lightbringer, or just about everything.
Everstorm Lazulite, Paul. That was my next one. Everstorm Lazulite is a rare drop from the Opalescent Palace zone.
There you go.
Let's keep going.
Chris says, good take, Cohen. How many unplayed games are in our Steam libraries? Yeah, I think I easily have, over the last 20 years, probably 200 games that I've never touched.
Did you guys not see that article that the average Steam library would take longer to complete than the owner is alive?
Seriously?
Is that true? There was something very close to that. It was the top 20% of the purchase or something. But yeah, you have more game time in the average Steam library has more game time than you can ever play through.
This next article, guys, I had sort of told William why I wanted to include it. So it'll be a surprise for Lindsay and Jeff, but only because I want to compare it to another industry. Okay, this is what's the interesting part of this article, but it's from Esports Observer, and the headline is Nerd Street Gamers introduces subscription program. So for those who don't know, Nerd Street Gamers owns venues where you can go play or watch esports, I guess. And what they're doing is they're introducing a service where they charge you $20 a month for in-person venue perks, and a digital-only option will be $5. So you'll get access to live and digital weekly competitions, discounts on larger tournaments and camps, and a monthly allotment of training time at their venues. So when I read this, the first thing that stood out to me was, this sounds a lot like a gym membership, right? Like an esports gym membership. And are we going to see a model here where esports venues start acting like gyms, right? You try and sign people up at relatively low cost, because the hope is, they come for the first month, maybe the second month, the third month, and then after that, they forget they had the gym membership and they stop coming, but they keep paying. Is this the gym membership model? Or is esports going to be very different in this case?
Well, you have to be careful, because these types of subscription models, they have to be very carefully introduced, right? Because the people most likely to subscribe are your heaviest users, right? And so if all you've done is just give a discount to your heaviest users, that's not a great business innovation. Those are the people who don't need, if all you've done is turn $30 of monthly revenue into $20 of subscription revenue, wasn't a good trade-off. So, but I do think in general, what's more interesting is this is part of a trend in gaming to have more subscription. I think even the article you pulled up there mentioned that like Cloud9, and I think another team had looked at.
Yeah, we talked about
recently.
it 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
It was Envy that had a subscription, a membership.
That's right, Envy Us, which was a very good name, by the way.
Yep.
Killer name. I wonder how long they waited on that one. but it speaks to this thing. I think it speaks to a larger trend in the industry, though, which is, look, you have a very big fan base. Everybody knows the dollar per friend monetization underperforms, right? A classic solution to these problems is a subscription model. This is a classic way to raise the curve, because if you can get people at a willingness to pay moment and lock them in for future payments, it's very good. And like, I know, I did like my coaching platform, Gamer Sensei. I think we had a subscription service we tried at one point, or we launched at one point for this exact reason. It's a business model that you rotate things through, right? I'm just not so sure it works here, because I think the analogy of gyms is the problematic one, right? Like with gyms, the whole idea is you want the customer never to come back because they're easy to sell, but you don't want them taking up the machines, right?
Yeah.
And I think the better analogy for these, for gaming centers and stuff are like, basketball courts, where like you want people to come because it's the competition, it's the events, it's all of that stuff that lures them out. And in that model, like why do you need a subscription to drive? Like that's not the right way to an event-driven business shouldn't be monetized via subscription. But I don't want to fault these guys. I think it's good to try different models. And I think in general, there needs to be more subscription in the esports space.
But isn't the gym comparison here totally accurate in the sense that these centers have limited number of seats, right? Ideally, you sell 10 times more subscriptions than you have seats, right? And therefore, you're hoping, right, on any given day, you don't have every subscriber coming in wanting to play in the tournament or wanting to train.
Yep.
Is that not how this evolves, essentially?
I mean, you are right that you're dealing with a limited capacity good, right? But I think that the way you solve that problem, well, I mean, look, I don't know. I think it's a good, let me start with, I think it's a good idea to try different models. I don't
agree.
I think it's a very good thing to try to, I would say that like you have plenty of limited capacity goods that solve this problem other ways, like movie theaters, right? Like most of the Movie Pass subscription services haven't worked for the exact problem I described, which is all they did was give a discount to the highest performing users. The people who are going to go see 10 movies a month anyway just got a huge discount, and the average person didn't sign up for the service, right? So movies solve high capacity problems otherwise. They build larger scale spaces, right? They do more showings. They offer extended hours. They offer discounts and incentives to come in and use capacity in idle times, right? Like I'm just making a point that like subscription could be a really good idea here. But the point I'm making is there's lots of different ways to solve this problem in the market. And I'm not quite sure we yet know as an industry, all the ways to solve these things. I will say that in general, subscription is a good trend in gaming. And I like that it's being tried in more places.
Hey, Paul, could you pull up again the article so we could see the value proposition? It was a little too quick to, like, what are people actually getting with the subscription?
So the program will give users access to live and digital weekly competitions, discounts on entry to larger tournaments and camps, and a monthly allotment of training time at the company's esports venues across the country.
I mean, I like the idea. I think William really hit the nail on the head. You have to be careful with subscriptions because you might just be giving a discount to your power users. But in general, I mean, subscriptions are a very powerful tool. I also like the idea of pairing the centers with sort of training and doing things that kind of increase the ARPU of the customer that's coming to the center. I think that's some of what William is doing, with Genji, with Helix. William probably talk more about that, but, I think that's a really powerful thing. Players that are coming to these centers, they are, hardcore gamers. They're looking to improve. They're looking to compete. If you can offer them tools to make themselves better as players, they will pay extra for it. So I think that's a really smart business strategy from Nerd Street. It'll be interesting to follow, how the subscription goes. But I do think, I would agree with William. I applaud them, for kind of sticking their neck out and trying it.
You got to do different models.
Okay, Nate says, I like that. Basically like CMG Esports Elite monthly subscription. I'm not familiar with that. I don't know if any of you guys are. Okay, I'm curious what that
it's
is.
Okane, by the way, because I see the Japanese character there.
Okane.
That means money.
Sorry.
Money. I'm surprised.
Very
That's
cool.
An interesting name. Yeah.
And Francois says, the only reason I pay for a gym subscription is that my apartment can't hold 30 different kinds of machines. As a PC gamer, I can own a PC in my living room. I mean, Francois, I think that's true, obviously. But a lot of people go to these venues and centers, because maybe they don't have as good of a PC at home or can't afford a PC at home, or because they want to just play with friends, right? They want to hang out with friends and be local.
People misunderstand how much access to technology is an issue. Like, literally, like everybody assumes that they've got a great PC that can run everything. This is what Paul and I were talking about in the podcast with the importance of mobile gaming. Like, what was it, like 50% of the state of New Jersey couldn't do at-home schooling properly because of internet connections at home? Like, it's really
digital divide now.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't want to wander into that morass, but like one is we really overestimate the ubiquitous and access to gaming. That's one, right? And then the second thing about that this is like, yeah, you're exactly right. You can have a PC in your house, but you can't have your apartment, but you can't have 30 people over for a tournament, right? Like it's the types of experiences that draw you out, I think. And that's what I mean is I think it's interesting to do, but in my mind, I have to be careful what I say here, because obviously I'm actively involved in center businesses and I like this space very much. But I think in my mind, it's a draw business, right? It's about what are the reasons you're giving for people to go in, right? And, this model is looking at it as what are the reasons, how do we get people not to come in, to Paul's point, how is it the gym business? So it's two sides of the same coin. But like I said, I think the bigger thing is we need to try new things in esports. Good job trying stuff,
Chris says subscription fatigue coming in hot in 2022. It's interesting because there are already tech companies, and I'm sure, Chris, you've seen maybe some of them, that are like services that they'll monitor your credit card and bank transactions and show you like all the subscriptions you have, because some people forget and don't realize that they subscribed to like that thing 2 years ago for $6 a month or something, and they forgot because it's not it's not significant enough. So I think you're right. It may even be sooner than 2022. Yeah. Okane says, wager site for matches. The premium subscription lets you have free entry to tourneys, and you don't have to pay the fee tax that is put on some winnings that you get. Okay, so very cool. Somewhat
Wait,
similar.
is he saying that that's what they offer here, or is this?
No, he's talking about the CMG Esports Elite subscription.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, anytime
that's fairly similar to something we're doing at DJL.
Okay,
interesting. It's a good idea. I agree.
No, but it's one of these things where, like, just in general in business, a recurring revenue stream is better than one time, right? Like and any investor likes to see recurring revenue, not one-time revenue. And so this is why these subscriptions are popular. This is why people try and push subscription if you can. The crux of it, like the real rub with subscription, is can you provide value every single month, right? Can you really deliver value every single month? Do you have enough freshness sort of to deliver value every single month?
Well, I thought you were saying the opposite here. You're saying the value is can we convince? That's what gyms can we convince you not to cancel, right? Like gyms basically want you to sign up, try for the first 2 weeks, never go because you hate it, feel guilty, call up to cancel. They leverage that guilt so you go back in for 2 more weeks and keep that. Like that is literally like gyms are an amazing.
The difference, the problem for esports centers, right, is gaming is fun, working out is not. Right? Like fundamentally, you may like the results of working out, right? But I don't think anyone is like, oh my God, I'm having so much fun lifting this thing.
But there are people, Paul. I meet people who love it. They're like,
yeah,
oh,
they like the result. They like the result, right? They like looking good.
I mean, you're talking.
A lot of people like working out. A lot of people like working out.
Anyway, gaming is more fun.
The Venn diagram of the people who watch this podcast or on this podcast that also like working out is probably 2 circles. Just given us and I imagine our audience.
Excuse me, I very much like working out.
Yeah, Lindsay's an athlete. Lindsay's like Lindsay the
but she's playing basketball. It's a game.
Yeah,
but
that doesn't count. That's literally a
I
game.
still like where I was just complaining that I can't fully straighten my arms because I did a really hard arm workout, but I still did another arm workout today and I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Okay, so here's the question, Lindsay. We're gonna go on a tangent for 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm gonna poke total holes in your logic. Okay.
Wait, are you gonna argue
if
how
working out
exercise isn't fun?
If working out made you gain weight, like you became grossly overweight as a consequence of working out, you're telling me you would still work out because you just love it so much.
You could say that. You could flip that on everything, though.
Yeah.
If it made you gain weight, would you still do it like crazy?
Well, there are some things that you would.
Weight.
That's
still
like
eat.
saying
You would still like eat ice cream. So
is
yeah,
your
I mean, that's a
utility
good-
calculation still the same if I add a massive negative utility?
Right.
Like, oh, you get a different answer. Oh, you
Driving.
didn't really
Like,
love it.
From your destination, would you still drive places?
Yeah.
All right. All
You
of
can't
you.
do that. You cannot do that.
Okane says, I like the idea of having access. People will pay for that when it comes to exclusive tourneys and stuff like that. Yeah, I think especially for the hardcore fans, the subscriptions are going to be a huge hit, like a really big hit. Cam says, it seems like a nice alternative rather than paying for GeForce Now /Stadia. That's true, especially in a non-like COVID world. Like the in-person experience is always going to be more fun than, sitting at home alone. And so I agree. I don't know if they're direct substitutes, but I definitely agree with this statement. Martin says they like the endorphins of exercise. Yeah, they're drug addicts. Let's move on. I have a story here. We'll keep this short, only because I don't think it deserves that much discussion. But I wanted to point it out because I just thought it was so ugly. This is from prnewswire.com. Casio unveils limited edition timepiece in collaboration with world-renowned esports gaming team FaZe Clan. So G-Shock and Casio are coming out with a FaZe Clan watch. It comes in a red packaging, has the red tiger camo, the FaZe Clan logo, and it commemorates FaZe Clan's 10-year anniversary. Anyone think this is a really good brand partnership? Casio, G-Shock, and FaZe Clan? Anyone think this is a miss?
They got lucky. But no, if it's not a smartwatch, people aren't wearing it. So just not a thing.
Like who's the audience for this watch? Right? Like Lindsay's point's a good one. Wouldn't they be wearing Apple Watches or?
Yeah, everyone with a smartwatch. I don't know, or a fitness.
I think the audience is teens, people who are fans of the team. I don't think this is that bad. I mean, when it first came up, I was thinking, okay, would it be better if this was like a luxury watch, like a Rolex?
But yeah,
then I quickly was like,
with the chain and the whole bit.
That was my first reaction. And then I was like, no, that would be a terrible idea because anyone buying a Rolex is not going to want it to say FaZe on it. Like that just doesn't. That's just dumb. I think this is not bad, right? Like I remember growing up, I had a watch and it had Michael Jordan on it. For whatever reason, I forget how old I was, probably like 7, 8, 9 years old. I wasn't even a Bulls fan. It's just like for whatever reason, I just remember having that watch and it was cool because it had Michael Jordan on it. So
but now we
this
have
to me
this.
doesn't.
And so William's point's a good one.
Are you arguing? I mean, are you arguing that watches as a general thing are stupid, or that this
for
watch is
FaZe's
stupid?
target market potentially?
I am arguing that watches are not a good industry to be in right now. Yes,
correct.
I will happily take that argument.
But
At
as a
least if you
brand.
leave ultra premium, it's a fashion item. It's totally different. It behaves differently. Like the reality is, I sort of take the point here, which is, and I think somebody in the chat said it. Like it's if the FaZe influencers wear it, the FaZe fans will buy it, right? And I think that's probably true. And I think Casio probably paid the most money to get this sort of partnership off the ground. So,
but this is the problem, because why would the FaZe influencers wear it, right? They're like with the gold chain and their Lamborghini, and then they're going to have a $50 watch. Like,
wait, but
if anything, I feel
Why does Matthew McConaughey drive a Buick? Does anyone think he actually drives a Buick? It's a commercial. It's advertising. Like,
But wait,
I don't know.
Trent in the chat is saying he's buying it. I just want to know,
There you
like,
go.
tell us
I
more,
mean-
Trent. Like, give us the view. Like, just tell us honestly. Do you like the styling? Is it different? Like, I'm
Well,
curious.
G-Shocks have never really gone out of style. Like that is
That's true.
one
Yeah.
thing.
That's true.
That's
It's
true.
been around a
G-Shock is
long
always
time.
a lot.
It's also red. I like red. I think it's pretty good.
I
could have been a
just
lot
think
worse.
it's a way better deal for KCO and G-Shock than it is for FaZe. Like that's my point. That this
Okay.
is a good way to get people to buy G-Shocks. This isn't a good way for FaZe to promote themselves.
But
FaZe
Jeff
is
brought up
getting
the
paid for
Rolex
something, right?
question, right? What if this was not a $10 or $15 or $20,000 Rolex? What if this was a $5,000 FaZe Rolex?
I think I would have hated it then.
You think
Yeah,
so?
then it's
Yeah,
totally out
because
of
you're
control.
mixing two brands, right? If you're buying a Rolex, you're doing that because you want to have a Rolex, not because you want to support FaZe. I think, I don't know. I would have.
I mean, G-Shock is the right
Luxury
watch
wouldn't have worked,
kind
I
of
don't
thing.
think.
I just don't really know what FaZe is getting out of it other than selling more merch.
Yeah, more merch and probably a very nice check from G-Shock, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Like it's a
'cause
great
I'm
deal
sure
for
there
them.
was some.
Or it's a great deal for KCO and for G-Shock. Like that's a brand that's probably obviously struggled with smartphones and smartwatches, but I don't see what FaZe is getting out of it besides straight doll. You know, they're not.
Well, that's exactly what they're getting out. That's what their business, right? So if you're saying it's a good deal for KCO and G-Shock because they're clearly making money, and then FaZe is getting money out of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sounds like that. It sounds like everybody. It's a good deal for everybody then, right? Like,
Yeah, it sounds like this is the free
What am I
market
missing?
working effectively. Like
Yeah.
two parties enter a mutually beneficial
And-
transaction.
Shocking. I mean, the chat seems to like it. I mean, we've got like 3 or 4 people saying they seem to
They
like
like
it. So.
G-Shocks. They always have. They always will.
Yeah.
As a kind of a sporty looking watch, it has sort of a classic look.
How-
Camp
how
says
much
FaZe
is this-
fans, if the influencers
much
are
does this
wearing it, then
cost?
fans will too, which I agree. Trent says I'm buying it. Chris says it's the supreme audience, which I think makes sense, right? Like the collectors, the ones who like the drops, the more unique drops. Trent says it's dope. Okane says seems cringe at first glance, but it will become a collector's edition / valuable item. I mean, that statement alone doesn't matter if you like it or not. Chances are, if you believe that, you're going to buy it, right? Trent says wait for 1% to drop the same thing next week. Interesting, 1%.
Yeah, what's
Cultural
1%?
reference I
Yeah.
don't get. Trent, you'll have to fill us in because if even Lindsay doesn't know, we've got a problem here.
I think we should give one of these away. I think it should be a giveaway. What do you think, Paul? Make it happen.
Sure.
I love putting.
Can we get our hands on one? We can try.
There you
Chris
go.
says-
We're already selling it.
Street culture.
I think this is great.
Street culture has been
Give
eating up.
away. Give
Yeah.
away.
We have to get one to give it away.
This is what happens when Paul puts me on the podcast and I start drinking scotch during the podcast.
Yeah,
That's it.
Like, give it away. Give it away. I think the answer.
The giveaway,
maybe
by the
this-
way,
this-
funded and sponsored by Esports Entertainment Group. Go check out esportsentertainmentgroup.com. Chris says street culture has been eating up G-Shock for a long time, which is
Yeah.
true. So this is kind of this is an interesting move on their part. Okane says it'd be cool to have as collector's item. Definitely doesn't have any real utility when they're smartphones. Yeah, I mean watches I think have become more like jewelry than anything else, especially if it's not like an Apple Watch or something like that. Trent says, what Gucci fanatic? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that was a success or not, that partnership. I actually don't know if both sides sort of made money there. It's not public information. But it did get some hype for what it's worth. I just don't know if they actually sold anything. Cam says it's $50, so the fans will buy it. I think this is purely a buyer super cool exclusive FaZe watch. Is it only $50? That seems very cheap.
Yeah, it is. It's 50. I'm pretty sure it's 50. Yep.
I mean, that's very inexpensive. No, it says 150.
Oh.
150.
No, we can't give one away then. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what just to be clear, that's what the final mouse was worth. So it's the same. Martin says, looks like a watch I would have bought at 8 years old. Well, G-Shocks, Martin, also, I think if you're a bit older, like G-Shocks were the watches we sort of grew up with. So I think it's more a perception issue there. Okane says you could flex on your esports friends, say, look at my watch, will be more relevant in 10 years when you bought the timestamped anniversary one now. Yeah, like there may be a group of people who laugh 10 years from now when these things are trading for like $2,000 or $3,000 or something. Cam says poor Martin is going to win the phase item. It's true, Martin. You haven't won a giveaway yet, right? You may end up with the watch.
It is true. Like, I poo-pooed the Magic the Gathering sneakers. I was like, no one's going to wear those. And now they're like a collector's item. I'm like, the one time Mike, the CCG I love, did a collaboration. Like, anyway.
It kind of says 1%'s another brand, not as big as FaZe. Yeah, I did a quick Google search. Chris says, have you seen the way gamers dress? What planet are you guys on with this high-end jewelry play? It's Chris, it's the look. It's the hoodie with the Rolex, right? And the Lambo behind you. I thought that was the whole 100 Thieves. That was the 100 or FaZe Clan. That was the FaZe Clan kind of like signature. The Lambo, the Rolex, and the hoodie.
I still want that champion hoodie with the snack pocket.
Well, no, we're not gonna get to it this week, but did you guys see the Ninja hoodie that has the holes, sort of perforated holes around your ears? So if you wear headphones on the outside of your hoodie, which he likes to do, you could still get clear sound. I don't know if you guys saw that.
That's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I'll pull it up if you guys are interested.
Pop it up.
He's got supposedly a patent pending on it. Let me just pull this up because we're talking about it. Ninja's newest gamer hoodie features a patent pending headphone compatible hood. And so if you look at it, see from the front you can't tell, but from the side it's got this like perforated section. But what's interesting is it's only like $60, which seems extremely like Ninja's merch, I think, which is interesting if we're talking business here, far more reasonably priced than all of the team merch, right? I think the 100 Thieves hoodies are like $100 or more. Like the Ninja merch
mainstream. I think he's going for a more of a mass casual audience. So then you're getting the quantity times a lower price. So that kind of makes sense, I think.
And I think the design's so clean, like it's not over the top. Like to me, this is a hoodie I would buy. Like just because I think the novelty of the headphone thing is cool.
When you first said it, I thought you meant like big holes, and I was confused.
I thought so too.
That's really nice. Yeah, I was really, really not on board until I saw it, and now, as soon as you pulled it up, I was like, maybe I want one of those.
Martin says, guess I'll learn to love it if you win it, and if we get one. Trent says, G-Shock is the hustler's watch when you have to grind hard and you're broke. Yeah, I like that.
Always been cool.
Cam says that hoodie is revolutionary. Jeff, give it away. Yes.
I'm just gonna give everything away.
Jeff, don't worry. Jeff's gonna sponsor all kinds of giveaways.
I'm gonna get a stern talking to after this podcast.
Chris says
when you're disinvited for the future.
Yeah, the next episode is just going to be EEG CFO in place of Jeff. Chris says when you're selling to 12-year-olds, $60 is a smart price point. I totally agree. Okane says, have you guys talked about the 100 Thieves cash compound in Fortnite game? I saw something on their Twitter about that. That's actually we should talk about that. I will bring up the story. Yeah. Then we'll end on that. Trent says I might be out of turn here, but that Ninja hoodie looks goofy. Trent, you like I can't keep up with you, Trent. You like the red camo G-Shock, which is a very sort of loud design, but the simple black hoodie with Ninja you think is goofy. I'm confused. Cam says, I'm glad the hoodie doesn't look like his shoes. And Trent says, my ears would be cold. Yeah, it's probably not made for like Canadian winters, but it's probably okay everywhere else.
Are you gaming in like a refrigerator, Trent? Like how cold are you gonna be?
Trent's like I turn the heat off, peak performance.
You're gonna have a sweatshirt on, a hood on, and earphones over. It's still going to be cold.
Really
I don't know.
trains when he's gaming. He's doing the Rocky IV montage. Like he's out in he's like out in the woods, like freezing cold, doing push-ups. Like here we go. Yeah.
Not
I
that
do
we like
think,
it,
though,
though.
this is what I love about Ninja here more than any merch drop anywhere, right? Like 100 Thieves, G2, Phase, you name it. He's innovating at least, right?
Yeah.
This is actually different. You can't go on Alibaba and order 10,000 of these and just slap your logo on it, right? Like there's something different here that he's doing. And to me, it speaks to, I think, his management. He's got, I think, just smart business people in the room who understand what his brand's all about, and they're making the most of it, right? Like, this guy does not want to stream 10 hours a day anymore. It's a lot easier just to put out a hoodie like this.
Okay, then we can't be mad at Champion for all of their innovations that happened in one sweatshirt.
All right. Let's get off this. Get off this topic.
Trent says Ninja pushed Champion out of Walmart, and Cam says Trent's optimizing his PC temps. Yes, Cam, that's right. That's right. You got to keep the room cold if you want the PC running cool.
Yeah, real
I did say we would talk about the 100 Thieves thing. Let me pull that up because I didn't have it as one of the stories, but if you guys want to talk about it, I think it's a good one.
I would love to. I think it's really interesting.
So let me just bring this up here. The headline was from The Verge here. You can now explore 100 Thieves' sprawling LA headquarters inside of Fortnite, and you can go check out the Cash App compound. So they've made a virtual version of their headquarters. Not much to it, really. I mean, there's a video here of you dropping in and going around the various rooms of the compound. But supposedly it's pretty accurate, or at least somewhat accurate. And they're holding a contest where participants can enter to win custom Fortnite gear and real clothes from 100 Thieves' latest apparel collection. So, they're using this obviously to promote the 100 Thieves and Cash App brands. What do you guys think of this?
I can go first. I can go last.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I love it. I think it's I think it's super interesting. Now, can you go in and buy digital skins of like 100 Thieves stuff in there that you could then wear in the game? Because that would be super creative.
I think they did have custom Fortnite gear that was part of it, but I'm not sure.
I mean, this is very, very creative branding. I mean, this is sort of has all the buzzwords. I mean, this is sort of metaverse, the blending of the online and the in-person. I would be very curious to just see the commercials around this. What's the breakdown? Like, what did 100 Thieves pay Fortnite to have this in there? What's the revenue breakdown? If things are sold within this, how much goes to 100 Thieves, how much goes to Fortnite? I just think it's a very creative piece of branding. I'd be very curious to learn more about.
The question is, like, what's the real purpose here, right? And I assume it's to push the Cash App brand, right? It's 100 Thieves essentially doing an activation for Cash App would be, in my sense, the primary goal of something like this, right? Does it achieve that goal? I'm not sure.
1,000% it does.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that replayable, right? It's not like you're going to explore the Cash App compound 20 times. You're going to do it once, right?
Quests and Easter eggs, Paul. Hello.
Maybe, right? But I also think the audience, you're hitting the wrong audience, right? The Cash App, you probably need a bank account or a credit card or something, right? Is that the 13 or 14-year-old who's excited about this in Fortnite?
You can't judge this on the company has chosen to do the sponsorship. So let's not evaluate if Cash App is the best fit for 100 Thieves. That ship has sailed, right? Like,
I'm not debating that. I'm debating is recreating their compound in Fortnite advancing recognition of this brand in any way.
I gotta
clever.
jump in here
I give them
with,
that.
With
right?
my view. I can't hold back here. I love this for 100 Thieves. I love this. As somebody who runs an esports team, you want as close to game as you can get. That's why getting your items and your products in the virtual game stores are such a huge deal for, you know, teams participating in the ecosystem. It's legitimacy, it's fan base. It's like soccer teams selling kits, you know, so this sort of deeper collaboration with an engine level, I think it's smart. I think it's the future. I think you're going to see more teams doing this. I think it's great. I love this from 100 Thieves perspectives. From Epic's perspective, I am so disappointed because like this is the promise that Fortnite could have been as a platform, social network, all of this stuff. It's just being used as an advertising network right now. This is just a straight up advertising play, right? Like they collected ad dollars. This doesn't appear to be part of a larger strategy. It doesn't appear to be part of an, you know, persistent metaverse for esports teams or anything. It's just like they got paid some money, they built it in creative mode. And this is where I wish there was, well, it's cool for Epic to be breaking this new ground, and it's a big deal for a publisher of this size to do it, and they deserve some kudos for that. I wish this were positioned from Epic as thinking on a more than just an ad platform. Like, I really wish that were the case.
Yeah. I totally agree, because this is like a revival of MTV Cribs. And
yes.
Like, I would love to see more Cribs in Fortnite. That would be so fun. Like, give me a tour of other things.
You heard it here first, folks. Lindsay wants to creep around your house in Fortnite.
Yeah, in Fortnite.
But Lindsay, it sounds like you like it then. You're disagreeing with William. Because it sounds like you love it.
Well,
no, William likes it. He just thinks Fortnite sort of missed the bigger boat.
Yeah, don't be doing advertising. Become a social network. Like Facebook didn't start with the ads; they built the social network piece.
But what do they do now? I would argue that literally Facebook is synonymous with advertising. Like that's like their whole thing, right?
Yeah,
only make money on it.
William's point is build a replica of a city, right? Yeah. With buildings you can go into and stuff like that.
But I would argue that's exactly what they're doing. So my argument is this:
is it a one-off, or is this something that they're actually going to do? That's the problem.
Well, true, you have to start somewhere, right? But if you're a 100 Thieves fan and you don't live in LA or California, you will probably never get to go visit the 100 Thieves compound. And we know the lines were out the door at that compound, so clearly people want to go visit it. So isn't a perfect way to engage your fans to give them the opportunity to actually do that? But in the game, you know, in virtual reality, this is the metaverse, right? Like you are giving someone an experience in a digital world that they wouldn't be able to get in a physical world, but it's social. It's, you know, it kind of blends the lines between, you know, your online versus your, you know, what's happening in reality. It's got commerce. It's got, you know, I really like it. Maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just being a stan right now or something right now, but I think it's very smart on Cash App's part, 100 Thieves' part, and Fortnite's part. I don't know.
Tonight is like real bizarro world for me, guys. I'm not seeing it. I give you it's innovative. I give you it's cool, right? I give you no one has done this before, right? I even agree with William that Fortnite missed the much bigger boat here, right? What I would have loved to see is Fortnite partners with Microsoft and recreates, you know, the entire city of New York in Fortnite, right? That's not built on any advertising.
It's got to start somewhere. You just build.
No. Like starting with advertising, I think, to William's point, is the problem, right? That they've kind of missed the. But where I'm really not getting is, like, I just don't get this. Like, who cares about visiting Office Space? Like, who cares?
Well, if it was just Office Space, time out. If it was just visiting Office Space, I don't think anyone would care. I mean, like, clearly this 100 Thieves compound has hit a nerve that people want to go visit it, right?
Fair.
If this was just like, hey, come see, like,
this is the mark in terms of, like, marketing for marketing's sake, even if the marketing's clever, is bad business, right? The fundamentally, and I teach this, right? What's the first thing you need to think about when you're thinking about marketing is, who's my target audience? The Cash App target audience is probably 18 to 35, right? Right off the bat, choosing to do an activation in Fortnite, I would argue they've sort of missed the mark. Now they do someone mentioned they do a ton of sponsorship on Twitch. That I agree with. In fact, they sponsor more adult shows on Twitch, like the Austin show, like Gondok, right? More talk shows that are geared towards an older adult audience, because that's who their customer is. Their customer is not the 13-year-old who wants to wander around the 100 Thieves compound. Like that, this is to me why it feels like a bunch of people got in a room and said, this is cool, let's do it, right? But no one asked, why are we doing it, right? What is the purpose? It was so cool that everyone just said, let's do it. And unfortunately, the side effect is going down this path, Fortnite misses the much bigger picture, which is the real metaverse, right? And not just the metaverse for branding and advertising purposes.
I mean, but this goes to Jeff's point a little bit further about you need to know what's going where and to whom. Was the deal between 100 Thieves and Epic? Was it between Cash App, 100 Thieves, and Epic? Or was it between Cash App and Epic? If it was between Cash App and Epic, then yes, your point stands. But if it wasn't, there's a huge market of people who play Fortnite who want to go see the 100 Thieves compound. I don't think it's just an advertising ploy. I think it's legitimately an interesting thing to consumers. Yep. I think not recognizing that aspect of it is a little bit silly.
Yeah, so I think I would be curious. I mean, because you know, we're on this podcast, we're obviously attuned to the business aspect of it, but I would be curious to see a survey of people who engaged with this content in Fortnite. Did they, you know, if you're the average 13 to 18, 20-year-old and you go, are you saying, hey, this is pretty cool, I'm in the Cash App, like, wow, let me, you know, tweet this or whatever, you know, put it on whatever social media the kids are using these days? Or are you saying, okay, this is lame, this is advertising? I genuinely think most of them are saying this is pretty cool. You know, same way.
It's a well done branded experience. Yeah.
And I'm not debating that, guys. Like, I'm not that I'm saying this is badly done or not cool or any of those things. I do think it's all of those things. I just
sounds to me like your whole argument is that Cash App should not be advertising in Fortnite because it's the wrong demographic. And if that is your argument, then I will, you know, you could be right. But Cash App,
there's a bigger argument.
They're not dumb. They know what they're, you know, we have to assume that they know their audience. They must have identified Fortnite as a good place to have their brand. Otherwise, yeah, I agree. Like, they're just completely wrong. But if we work into the assumption that they know their audience, they have activated this engagement incredibly well.
There's the bigger argument, which is the argument that William made, and I come back to it, which is this is really disappointing in terms of Fortnite, period, because it seems they don't understand. And I come back to the argument William and I had on the podcast, which you guys will hear tomorrow, about Roblox, where I think we both agreed, and I won't speak for William, so I'll say just for me, where I believed that Roblox has essentially leapfrogged Fortnite and accomplished what Fortnite could have accomplished, right? Building a true platform that allowed people to come in and build, call it the metaverse eventually, right? Yeah. And Fortnite has shown time and time again, I think, that they have not been able to achieve that because they're so busy building these very limited, short-sighted, ad-based kind of experiences, right? Well, it's 100 Thieves and it's Cash App. We're going to build one building. You can come visit that one building, and it's cool. We're going to do Marvel. We're going to do this one little thing with Marvel. It's this. We're going to do this one little thing with this. And I think they've missed the bigger boat in terms of the metaverse boat, right? And where companies like Roblox have now, I think, leapfrogged them. And I worry that Fortnite may not be able to catch up at this point. Sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with you on that, but I do think that this type of experience is something that a lot of the Fortnite audience wanted. I don't think it was simply an advertising play. I mean, Fortnite has absolutely missed the boat building a brand strategy. They've done cool one-offs, but there's no single, unifying factor that brings people onto Fortnite anymore.
But isn't that exactly their brand strategy? Is that we can do these cool one-offs and it works? So consistent. Like when they did the Marvel thing, people raved about it. Everybody, there was a million business essays about how it was the smartest crossover and it was genius and it was the metaverse. Then they did the NFL thing recently. Oh, people loved it. So I don't see how this is different.
Their player base is in slow decline. That's the reality, right? And one-off experiences won't change that decline. The only thing that will turn it around is if you manage to achieve that social platform / metaverse kind of transition. Like, to me, that's the only way that slow decline turns around. Now, it's a very slow decline, right? So Fortnite's not going anywhere. They'll do a bunch more of these activations, and I'm sure they will be successful from a commercial standpoint. But I think they've lost sight of the big picture of what they could have been. Let me just read some comments here. Trent says the virtual headquarters is sort of mid-grade. It's not a total yawn. I don't know if I would call that a rave review. Cam says, don't think anyone other than Ninja has had their brand in game. Well, they've done like football brands and stuff like that. So they have done a few others and Marvel and things like that. Okane says they are doing work on Twitch with Cash App, and you have to think these kids will grow up and want to use banking apps eventually. Normally, I would agree with you, but I just don't know if mind share at 14 around banking apps is sort of where to hit your potential customer. Like, I'm not sure, like, when they turn 18, they're like, oh, I remember Cash App. Right? Like, it's chances are, you know.
Actually, I think you're on there. A lot of the finance stuff is first account driven, right? Like a lot of the evidence.
Yeah, but usually it's your parents, right, that take you to open the account. Usually
it's like why the most expensive bank locations are college towns, right? It's the college kids. So I could actually see if payment starts at 13. Marketing to 11 is a good move because you need to But anyway, let's not litigate that sponsorship because that's not business or esports. That's just a market fit thing, and we don't need to. Yeah.
What's the purpose? Hit the nail on the head. It seems kind of fly by night. Also, it's not in the main game like Marvel. It's a bit of an obstacle for the main demo of Fortnite. Yeah, Trent, I'm with you on that. But, see, someone agrees with me. Trent says this is an industry move to add to their advertising portfolio. Respect. Yeah, I think we all agree that we see it that way. If they think Cash App is the coolest app on the market, it will stay the coolest app on the market. Yeah, they may be able to build that level of mind share. I'm not saying it's impossible. They're going to have to hit them a lot over those years before they sort of become banking customers. Okane says you'll see these in-game ads more and more, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. We've had this discussion, Okane. If you go back, previous podcasts, previous live streams, it's an argument we've had before, and there's been some really good discussion. Trent says room raiders.
What I'm talking about. Bring it back.
I just realized that the company adverting market is going to evolve huge from this. Yeah, I mean, gaming in general is going to provide, I think we all agree, going to provide massive new opportunities to do activations for brands. It's just, I don't think they can be done sort of willy-nilly. I think all the basic principles of marketing, good marketing, still need to apply. Trent says 100 room thieves. Am says, true, Jeff, what other game could this happen in? Yeah. Spider-Man, hashtag Spider-Man ad. Gaming houses have always been the cool thing for gamers. Now it's like a step up to the future, and it's meta to the gamers that want to aspire to become pro. I want to ask you guys a question, but it's a rabbit hole, which is, do the gaming houses at some point go out of style? Keep that thought. We're gonna finish on it. Cam says they're visiting it for the same reason people are buying the Phase Watch, though. This compound's not special. Computers, desks, a room with cameras. But it's 100 thieves, so I think to Jeff's point and Lindsay's point, there's going to be interest, right? Okane says it's not just houses anymore, it's full compounds. If you ever see the tour, they make it seem like the coolest thing with streamer studios and meeting rooms to your standard 13-year-old. Okane, not only have I seen the tour, I, in fact, presented it to my class as an example, as multiple examples of good and bad marketing done sort of in real life. Okane says to a 13-year-old, it might be really badass, and to clarify, shed some light. Cash App just sponsors 100 Thieves Compound like they paid for it, so the partnership is more, or say 100 Thieves in Fortnite. Yeah, I would be surprised. Maybe you guys have a different thought. If Cash App was not part of those conversations in some way. I don't think they were just left out. Trent says, if it's cool, where's the sales conversion? We don't know yet. Trent.
Listen, we could get company revenues. I'll be ready.
Yeah. What industry do you think we are? This esports land of zero revenue.
Public knowledge.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure that, look, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a news story about how much interest or revenue this thing generated at some point. That's the kind of PR that 100 Thieves is really good at. So anyone think houses go out of style at some point? It's a yes or no. Rapid fire.
Yeah.
No, William, you start.
Yeah, of course they will. This is a marketing play, and marketing tactics are novel the first time you do them. They diminish in utility each time, and they quickly. So yeah, that's going to get cycled through. There'll be another big trend. Next, it'll be mobile trucks, or sponsoring an airplane, or it doesn't matter. It's just this is how marketing tactics.
Hey,
work.
don't let all the good ideas come out.
Sorry. Yeah. All right,
the Business
done.
of Esports airplane was coming soon.
Yeah.
Now he's let the cat out of the bag. Jeff.
Yeah, I agree with William. I think he's right. At some point, it has you can only spend so much money, right? $10 million house is cool. Then a $50 million, what do we have, $1 billion house at some point? Like, you can't keep up with the Joneses forever. And yeah, it's got to end at some point.
Lindsay?
No, because I don't think that the house in its current form will stand forever. Like, I just think that there will always be some sort of cool content creation / central studio / stadium type place that brands will be able to use. But I don't know if the expensive house is going to be it.
Will it be a news story? I guess I thought I took your question to be like, will it be big news when another one of these comes out?
No. Will teams still be doing them?
That's like saying, like, will football teams have stadiums? Like, yeah, I mean, as long like
no, it's like saying, will football teams have
training facilities,
right, where they all live together and train together?
Oh,
like that's really and all the office space is jumbled in there, and like that's more the
function though. That's the confusing part.
No, but no,
I don't think they will always.
Relevant.
I don't think they will always live there. As the industry matures, you don't live with your coworkers. Like, generally, that's just a weird way to structure a business. So I think as things professionalize, it will be a house that people go to create content. It's not necessarily going to be a fraternity where everyone lives there, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I can't speak for you guys, but William and I will be moving in together because Cam predicted it. Our 150 billion satellite, which we will be living in and creating content out of. But expect the tour for that. Okane says, still probably oh yeah, so I read that one. Otaku culture, empty mansions from Trent. I think eventually they do go away. The value utility of gaming houses will always be meta, whether it's an office or actual house, because for pro teams, it's a necessity. I'm not convinced of that. I don't know. William, probably the best one to comment on that, if you believe long-term it's a necessity.
Facilities are a necessity, but not the way these facilities are being done. Like offices are a necessity, but they don't have to be the Cash App offices.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't you the counter argument to this, which is like, and we talked about this on the podcast, you're what are you the number one team in now, William?
Oh my God, so many games, but Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
Do your Heroes of the Storm players live together?
No, they do not.
Well, there you go. Right.
But to be very fair, like our Rainbow Six pros live together, right? Like there's different levels of investment that are required for different titles, and different games require different suites of. So I definitely think that but by the way, does Tom Brady live with his, I guess I can't say Patriots anymore, but yeah, like with the other receivers? Like, no, I mean, there's different models. You don't need
the
to
same house as Giselle. I don't know.
You do need training facilities, right? You do need there is a value for some of these things in some types of in some games that warrant the investment. So, esports, yes, there will need to be physical infrastructure. That will continue.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be branded, marketed, designed to be a fan engagement experience too. That's just working right now as a marketing tactic.
Kind of says because they get to work out together, eat together, and train together daily and need it. Yeah, that is what many of these teams believe. Guys, I want to wrap up this live stream. Before we do, because we're on the topic of merch and 100 Thieves and that kind of thing, I just want to ask anyone who's still left one quick question. We will be coming out, I'm going to tease it, a Business of Esports merch line. We have some initial designs that we're really excited about. There was only one question mark on one of the designs that William and I sort of had some back and forth on, and we wanted to put it to you guys. How many of you would be interested in Team Profit and Team Professor shirts? Specifically those two. We're probably going to have 4 or 5 different designs. and not just shirts and hoodies and things like that. But who likes the whole team profit, team professor concept? I'm curious for anyone who's still left here, what they think of that. And while you guys are thinking and answering, I will just put up our last segment. As always, what are we playing this week? William, you go first.
Well, Heroes of the Storm, because I got to get ready for the Hogger Hero release. That's huge. I did play a little bit of, oh my God, why am I blanking on the name? The new Annapurna interactive game, The Pathless, which I wanted to try because it's sort of another artistic expression, journey style game. I was disappointed by it, actually. Surprised. Really good reviews. I sort of thought like it's a lackluster, traversal system. People are giving it high praise. So I played a little bit of that. And then, I'm still actually speed running Ghost Runner in my spare time, trying to get my times down, because I can play it. Like, I can finish a business call. I can have 5 minutes before my next call. It takes 3 minutes to play a level, and I can try a run. It's really nice to have a micro game that I can fit in between things in the day and get a little bit of a break. And I still think it's best game this year, maybe Ghost Runner. It's absolutely brilliant. I truly, truly love it. So that's what I'm playing.
Lindsay?
I played Overcooked a bunch this week. It was good. It was good in between.
IRL Overcooked, I hear.
Both. Yeah, that's kind of what the inspiration was from cooking so much to playing Overcooked. So I am overcooked at this point.
Jeff?
I did not play anything this week. This is a recurring answer. I'm just going to start making stuff up at some point.
Yeah, you're just going to have to start picking games off your
anything.
Steam list and claiming you played them.
I will have to do that. I'm going to have to get Steam first.
Oh, my God. I'm going to pretend I just didn't hear that. It just sort of wafted over me.
I mean, you would have to know that I'm not a PC gamer. Come on. Let's be real.
I just played a little bit of COD this week. It was Cold War. Cold War is reaching for me sort of the end of COD is super interesting for like the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then literally after that you don't play it the rest of the year. Is sort of how it goes. And I'm sort of reaching the end of that one. Trent says, great show. Thank you, Trent. It was great having you. It's a great show because you're here. And Cam says, I missed the email on these. Cam, I told you were in charge, but I had to do something. Trent says Team Jacob versus Team Edward. Yes, Trent, exactly like that. Because William and I are the.
Want you.
What?
If any of you are Team Jacob, just go ahead and leave.
Okay, Lindsay, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Between me and William, who is Team Jacob and who is Team Edward?
Oh, there's no direct comparison. I can't pick who's the vampire and who's the werewolf.
I mean, Paul's definitely the werewolf. I don't know why, but he just is.
The werewolf is
I don't want to be Team Jacob.
I mean, I don't know which one's which. I never watched Twilight, but
yeah, Jeff, we're having that conversation. You don't know.
You're definitely the werewolf.
You have no idea what their personalities
I have more hair. Yes.
You got a werewolf. You got a werewolf kind of vibe. It's not a bad thing.
Francois says, "Thank you for the live. I haven't worked at all on my term papers tonight, but I have no regrets. Good job, everyone, Francois. I'm sure you'll be fine. This is more of an education than any term paper." And you can tell your professor that, and if they have an issue, tell them to talk to William. Cam says, Destiny 2 friends and I were 5th in the world to beat the new raid. That's cool, Cam. Congrats. Wow. Martin says, I don't think I'd buy a Team Professor or Team Prophet shirt, though Team Professor for sure. Martin, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. My ego really bruised on this one. In fact, William and I were talking about if we do Team Professor and Team Prophet shirts, we would release the sales numbers weekly to see who was beating who.
Oh, no.
William's muted, and you Martin, this is your guy who can't even work the mute button, okay? Just so you know which team you're backing here.
Here, guys, I'm done.
Trent says, yes. Werewolf kind of vibe, clip and ship it.
Guys,
All right.
read the books or watch the movies.
Cam says, I asked this earlier, was it not Profit? No, it was never really Profit.
Profit with an F, yeah.
Profit with an F. I also own Profit with an F.gg. which I was going to do something with at some point.
Look at Paul just securing the IP.
Just in case.
You know how many .ggs I own? Like a ridiculous number.
I'm sure.
So it sounds like Martin doesn't want. Actually, just because Martin said he would buy a Team Professor shirt if there was one, basically, that's reason enough not to do one. Okay. I don't know if my ego could handle being outsold.
That's right. We have to cancel it. The risk of me outselling you is too great.
Too great. But that wraps up this week's live stream, guys. Thank you as always. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, William. Thank you guys for coming and participating and making this interactive and fun. It's why we love doing it every week. Stay tuned tomorrow for the podcast. Also, don't forget we do a weekly news roundup that usually comes out over the weekend, which is great to get sort of caught up on the news in the space. And we also put out on the website and our social, my weekly minute usually comes out Monday or Tuesday. That is sort of a complete sort of view of everything you need to know in the world of esports, but condensed into basically 2 minutes. So stay tuned for all those things. And as always, tell your friends about the live stream, tell your friends about the podcast. It's how people find it and how this grows and becomes more and more fun. But we appreciate you being here. Thank you as always. And we will see you guys next week.